Hey, everybody, and welcome to this brand new year and this brand new episode of Beyond Day One. Today, we're going to answer the question, or at least begin to answer the question, why so many capable people feel stuck. Now, I just recently wrote an article for this on our blog and on LinkedIn. We'll put the link in the description so you can go check it out and read for yourself. Well, to help me talk about this, I've bought some friends, of course. I've got with me Philip, and then, of course, as usual, our intern, Gen Z John, is with us today to help us have this conversation. Gents, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Very good.
Well, we want to talk a little bit about this concept and because you don't think about being stuck, especially in a new year. In a new year, lots of people are out of the chute. They're doing all of these things. They're at the gym. Their desks are organized. They're putting all the pieces together. They are soaring all over the roof. But then at some point, usually in that same month, people crash and burn.
Hmm.
And usually between somewhere towards the middle of the end of January and some point in February, a lot of that energy and momentum is gone. Well, for some people, you never picked up any energy or momentum because you're still kind of feeling the same way you felt coming out of last year, or you're feeling the same way you feel about your job or about whatever your situation or circumstance may be. And that is you are feeling stuck. And just like I say in the article, you know, there's sometimes where I feel like I'm at the end of my rope. I feel like I'm not making any progress forward. I'm not making any progress backwards. I'm just here. And unfortunately, I have felt that way far too many times. Now, there's a difference between the struggles of procrastination and feeling stuck and some of the things that are really in your control to do to move forward. But then there are things that feel like they're out of your control. And those are the things we want to talk about. And so, as we talk about this and kick this off, you guys, do you have memory or what about you? Have you ever felt stuck before? And I think probably everybody at some point or another has felt stuck in their work. How about you, Philip?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. There was a time when I was working for an organization and I was tasked with quite a bit of stuff, probably the job of about three people. And
Right.
I I knew and had, I had a whiteboard with all kinds of cool stuff written on it, all the goals that I thought needed and strategic objectives, blah, 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 that needed to be done. But when it came to the actual execution of it, it was just honestly, there was times when it was so overwhelming that I didn't even know where to start because there were so many things that uh, through management's imperatives that made it seem like this is our urgent need right now. Okay, and then next week another thing would be the urgent need, and
Mhm.
I wasn't even finished with the first one they were trying to get me to
Right.
to complete, and so
Forget
it
finished. How about even started good?
exactly. It's like you come out of the gate and you're firing in 10 different directions and you can't hit a target like that. And so I know what it's like to feel stuck and to have that kind of that lingering thing that uh, you're spinning your wheels. You may be busy. You may be busy every day. You may be taking calls and sending emails and so forth, but the actual measurable progress is not there. And that's a frustrating feeling, David, for sure.
Yeah, it really is. John, one of the things that we began, and I want to mention and bring in Gen Z into this conversation because that's really who this conversation is for. One of the things that I've observed and I'm aware of is that when Gen Z feels like they are in this position where they're stuck, it's usually followed by anxiety and stress because when
Yeah.
you feel stuck and you're not sure what to do, where to go, or that you're not making progress one way or the other, it creates problems. What's your thought?
I have a few thoughts. Of course, I have been there before. It's not fun because it feels like there's just no direction.
Mhm.
There's no, you don't know the path forward, and therefore you just start firing, like you said, firing off on all cylinders. I've seen I've been in that position before, and I'm currently in a place where I have somebody who I'm working with who is completely just like scatterbrain. They do
Mm,
not they really want to put as like 100% effort, but their effort is going like everywhere, and it becomes confusing and it causes more mistakes than there should be in the first place.
mm,
Um, and that anxiety, um, man, let me tell you, it feels real, especially when you're seeing people around you that are just kind of getting, that are on the chopping block for things that you didn't expect to cause you to get fired. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, and then I hate to sound so pessimistic, but then you're on top of that, the same person I'm talking to is telling me about the fact that there are no, like, they keep just seeing reports of how people are just not hiring anymore, and so you have this combination of like, well, I want to make sure I'm being told to put in more effort and stop being lazy, but I'm not being told where to put all that effort. On top of that, I
I
feel like I'm losing my job, and then in the back of my mind, I'm not really seeing any other opportunity, which just causes this cycle of push forward, but we're not going to necessarily tell you where to push forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
dude, that's so good, John, because that is if you are out there listening and you're a manager, you just heard the Gen Z mindset on both being stuck and how that leads to anxiety and stress and where that thought path leads. And it means that when we're managing this generation, we have to handle things very openly and very clearly. We have to be very, very open about what's going on to the best of our ability because the less they know, the more anxiety they have, the more stress they have, and the more likely they are to ultimately check out on you and find some place where they feel more secure. And security is part of, it's part of the puzzle to helping this generation. And really, it's part of the puzzle to helping everybody feel
Yeah.
better about their job. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah. Security, it relieves anxiety. It does. When you have some level of a solid foundation under your feet and you have at least a direction that you know you're supposed to go, um, and you know that you're getting that direction from your leadership so that it's not something you're kind of coming up with by yourself, or you're just kind of guessing at what they might want you to do, but you're getting clarity from them as far as, okay, here's the things we want you to accomplish, A, B, and C, and you have that place to start. Then that creates that kind of ground under your feet that feels more solid. And when you have that solid ground under your feet, now you don't feel that anxiety. It's almost like, and I know, David, you and I think we've probably talked about this sometime in our past, but like even with raising kids, there's a study after study shows that if you don't define boundaries with kids, that actually creates more anxiety for them than
Mhm.
than having them just have no boundaries at all and just be like a free range kid out there doing whatever, you know. So it's important to establish boundaries and establish objectives in the workplace. That way people don't feel that sense of anxiety not knowing where the line is or what may be right or wrong about what they're doing.
Yeah, that's good, Philip. If you're in Gen Z, you're a part of this generation. Listen to me tell you this again, and it's just like I pointed out in the article. You are not broken because you feel anxious and you're stressed about what's going on at work. And you're not broken because you're stuck. And remember, anxiety is it's not a flaw, it's a signal.
That's good.
When you are anxious about something, it indicates that somewhere there is a lack of clarity for you that needs to be addressed. And the more you know, the more you're clear about, the less anxiety that's connected to it. It's also not an issue of motivation. People will say, "Oh, well, that's just you're not motivated to do more. That's why you're stuck. You need to stir up your motivation." No, it's not. an issue of motivation. It is definitely the solution, the answer to being stuck is clarity. And,
Mhm.
you just think about it, you know, John gave you a couple of examples. Philip gave you one. You go to a boss who tells you, "Hey, yeah, let's iterate on that thing right there," but never tells you exactly what they want iterated on. They never
Mhm.
give you a direction to go and just give it to you as if you're supposed to already know just what's good. You're new in this environment, or this environment is still you're still growing in it and you're still learning in it, and there are things that you don't know. And so instruction like that, direction like that will leave you feeling anxious, which means you need to be able to be an advocate for yourself and
Mhm.
begin to ask the hard questions like, okay, I appreciate that. What direction do you prefer? Would you like it to be way A, or do you want to go way B? Or is it more color, less color? Could you give me some direction that will help me to know which way you feel this needs to go? Another place where it comes up is when you're doing your reviews, your annual or your semi annual reviews, and you just get a review, and it's like, do better in your personal communication, you know, do better, in the break room. I just made the break room up. But it's this vague feedback that you're never sure exactly what it means and what you'd have clear steps to do so that if you take the following steps when you come back for the next review, then you will have conquered whatever that issue may have been. If your boss isn't being clear with you, you need to get the strength up. You need to get the confidence together to be willing to go in and ask for the clarity you need. What's your thought, John?
Well, I, I feel like that's as clear as day. Um, I think that asking just puts you forward, like that just gives you the advantage over everybody else. I've been in that room where I'm being told that, hey, well, you just need to be more focused. All right, okay, I understand, but where do I need to, where do I shift my focus? Where do I need to be more motivated instead of just being told I need to be more motivated?
Right.
Um, that man,
What does
just
that
those
look like?
right,
Right.
those few details will give you such an advantage over everybody else. Not that it's a competition, but if you want to set yourself forward, um, those questions give you like I can't give you percentages off the top of my head, but man, the amount of success that could follow just by asking for those details, it's unmatched. I think that yeah,
Yeah,
one
John,
something
can I
that
jump
helps.
in on that for something you just said?
Sure.
People say it's not a competition. And I don't want to leave you thinking that your job is to compete with everybody else, but you are competing for the opportunity to make progress in your work. You
Yes.
are competing for promotions with yourself,
Yeah.
and there may be other people that may be involved in that. You don't have to look at them and get into the comparison trap. But what you can do is drive yourself to be the best and use every tool that you have, which includes asking for clarity, asking for feedback, talking to your boss along the way so you feel like as you're taking steps that number one, you're taking the right steps. And as a result of that, it's impossible for your boss not to see you and appreciate what you're doing to get to the next level. So you
Yeah.
Yeah.
do, I don't want to call it competition, but you do have to take those steps forward. We've got one quick thing that we want to tell you about before we wrap up. On January 27th, we're starting a live webinar series. There's so many Gen Z who are trying to get jobs, but they're stuck in the interview process. We're going to do our best to help you get unstuck with this 5-part webinar series. We just want you to go to our website, click on the seminar tab, and you can register for that. Until next time, I'm David. He's Philip. That's John. And we're out.